Spain, and Germany. Police in Paris fired tear gas as protesters in trade union-led march smash windows of bank branches. Fucking sick. Oh god, Elon tonight? What's Elon doing tonight? I don't want to know. I do from like a sick sense of perversity, but yeah, that's tonight. I thought that's on the 8th. I thought that was next week. I saw whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay, it is next week. Yeah, Elon Musk is on SNL next week. God help us all. Yeah, he just tweeted a bunch of like really garbage like premises today, I think. I don't know. I saw someone on Twitter posting about it. Who cares? Okay. Thousands rallied on Saturday across France and Spain to hold May Day rallies in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic as police scuffled with protesters in Paris and fired tear gas. A police source told AFP that far-left Black Bloc protesters had repeatedly tried to block the trade union-led march in the French capital, with 34 people detained. Some protesters smashed the windows of bank branches, set fire to dustbins, and threw projectiles at police, who responded with volleys of tear gas and sting ball grenades. About 5,000 police were deployed in Paris, a police source said. The CGT union said nearly 300 May Day protests were planned around the country. It later claimed a total national turnout of 170,000, with 25,000 rallying in the French capital. The French Interior Ministry put the national figure at 106,000 and the Paris turnout at 17,000. Okay. What's the CGT union? Does anyone know what the CGT union? It doesn't say, does it? No. It's a French union. Anyway. The crowds held placards with different demands ranging from the end of the nighttime curfew in place as part of coronavirus restrictions to a halt to unemployment reforms due to come into force in July. Quote, "We have many reasons to come and rally. The health and social situations and the general impoverishment of society," said Yvonne Guinest, 50, who works in a high school in the southeastern city of Lyon. Members of the Yellow Vest anti-elite movement, which rocked Emmanuel Macron's presidency 2 years ago before largely fizzling out, could also be spotted at protests up and down the country. General Confederation of Labor. Okay. Cool. Thanks for that, Dan. There are so many motivations for a revolt that are building up. The management of COVID, the so-called reforms that are going to take away people's ability to live, job seekers who are going to lose their benefits, said a pensioner who gave her name as Patricia. That's not how you say that. I don't know how to say it in French. We absolutely need to express ourselves, the 66-year-old said. I almost thought about just doing that in a bad French accent, but I spared us all that. Thousands also rallied in more than 70 cities across Spain in the first Labor Day demonstrations since the pandemic began. Only French people and people who were colonized by the French know how to say anything in French. And I guess my girlfriend who lived in Belgium for a year, and France for a few months, she's a fucking francophone. Wearing masks and observing social distancing, demonstrators marched through the streets waving banners, although in many places numbers were capped to ensure anti-COVID measures were respected. The main demonstrations in Madrid which was limited to 1,000 people, began at midday under the slogan, "Now it's time to deliver," with the participants marching from the town hall to the city's Puerta del Sol square. Some government ministers attended the march, including the Labor Minister Yolanda Diaz, as well as representatives of the three left-wing parties running in Tuesday's regional election in Madrid. At the rally, union leaders urged the government to honor commitments delayed by the pandemic, such as repealing a controversial labor reform, raising the minimum wage, and approving a law on equal pay. All I know is prudent. Very funny, Pimento. The crisis has made us face up to an outdated labor model based on casual work, seasonal employment, and inequality, which is exactly what the labor ministry has started to change, she said. In Berlin, about 5,000 people rallied, according to police, following a call by left and far left groups. About 5,600 police were deployed in the city, where more than 20 rallies were scheduled to be held over issues ranging from rising rents to Germany's immigration policy and opposition to coronavirus curbs. I almost said perbs. I don't know what that means. I don't know what a perb is. It sounds like a perv. Meanwhile, in Belgium, police fired water cannons and tear gas to clear a crowd of several hundred gathered in a park to protest anti-virus lockdown rules. The defiant, mainly young crowd has assembled for the Boom 2 protest, organized online as a follow-up to an action that was broken up last month. The Prime Minister, Alexander De Croo, had urged the crowds to stay away, and hundreds of officers were deployed before the order to clear the park was given. AFT reporters in the Bois de la Cambre, a large park in the city, saw fireworks set off and some missiles thrown before police moved in. Yeah, not as big as I was expecting either, Pimento, but what you gonna do? 6.7 million people in Berlin. And only, wait, how much did they say? 5,000 people? Yeah, that's not that much. As the clearance operation began, there was little immediate sign of violent resistance from protesters, but a dustbin was set on fire as the crowd retreated. Meanwhile, in Turkey, the BBC reported that police had arrested more than 200 people in chaotic scenes in Istanbul for holding unauthorized protests. The office of Istanbul's governor said 212 people had been arrested after they broke away from the annual May Day march and tried to enter Taksim Square, a symbolic area of protest. And that's it. That's from The Guardian. That's our Guardian article. Now let's look at this SF Gate one. This is May Day protesters. Oh, wait, 1 second. May Day protesters demand more job protections amid pandemic. So we're going to change this from politics to ASMR. There we go. Okay. Let's see. So, May Day protesters demand more job protections amid pandemic. Take a little drink. Paris, AP, workers and union leaders dusted off bullhorns and flags that had stayed furled during coronavirus lockdowns for slimmed down but still boisterous and at times violent May Day marches on Saturday, demanding more labor protections amid a pandemic that has turned economies and workplaces upside down. In countries that mark May 1st as an International Labor Day, the annual celebration of workers' rights produced a rare sight during the pandemic. Large and closely packed crowds with marchers striding shoulder to shoulder with clenched fists behind banners. In Turkey and the Philippines, police prevented the May Day protests, enforcing virus lockdowns and making hundreds of arrests. In France, some marchers battled with riot police, as they tend to do in France. I saw a video today of a cop getting pushed over and acting like he was so hurt, basically like a soccer player pretending he gets when they get hit or whatever. That's the level of over dramatic acting this fucking riot cop was doing. In full riot gear. So he's basically in a bubble. A protective bubble. In Turkey and the Philippines, police prevented the May Day protests, enforcing virus lockdowns and making hundreds of arrests. In France, some marchers battled with riot police. For labor leaders, the day was a test of their ability to mobilize workers in the face of the profound economic disruptions. In France, thousands took to the streets with union banners and flags, hemmed in by and sometimes scuffling. No yawning, you're right, Prevento. Sometimes scuffling with riot police. Face masks worn by many marchers were a reminder of how much life has changed since the last traditional May Day celebrations in 2019, before the spreading coronavirus wrecked lives and livelihoods and eroded civil liberties, often including the right to demonstrate. Riot police clashed with some demonstrators in Paris and the southern city of Lyon while burning roadblocks through clouds of smoke into the Paris air. Police charged crowds to catch suspected troublemakers and fired small amounts of tear gas. Seems like they're manufacturing a little bit of consent here. Police in Paris said they made 34 arrests. Authorities also reported 5 arrests and 27 police officers injured in Lyon. But most of the dozens of marches across France passed off without incident. Just small amounts of tear gas. We're only shooting little bits of tear gas. Not crazy puffs of tear gas, just a little bit. Yeah, still a human rights violation. They do it here in the US all the time, and it is technically a human rights violation. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, what's it called? A war crime? Yeah. Some demonstrations constricted by coronavirus restrictions were markedly less well attended than those before the pandemic. Russia saw just a fraction of its usual May Day activities and a coronavirus ban on gatherings. The Russian Communist Party, I'm glad that's still a thing, I guess, drew only a few hundred people to lay wreaths in Moscow. For a second straight year in Italy, May Day passed without the usual large marches and rock concerts. Yeah, I feel like Italy's probably one of the places that did the least May Day stuff because of how horribly they've been rocked by the pandemic, repeatedly. Funny how that happens to poorer Western nations. But in France, Germany, other places where rallies were allowed, workers vented their concerns over jobs and protections. In Bosnia, coal miner Turney Kodrick said he and his colleagues are barely surviving. I've heard that the RCP is socially conservative. I bet it is. I bet it's like a weird like communist nationalist party. Um, they're like the kind of like I don't know, maybe Nazgûls, maybe not quite that, but like something close. But I don't know. I don't know a lot about that. Yeah, real hung up on self-determination. Yeah, self-determination against whom? Besides their own state. Like, they're not colonized. Anyway. In Indonesia, Southeast Asia's largest economy, thousands voiced anger at a new jobs law that critics fear will reduce severance pay, lessen restrictions for foreign workers, and increase outsourcing as the nation seeks to attract more investment. God. Protesters in the capital of Jakarta laid mock graves in the streets to symbolize hopelessness, and marches were being held in some 200 cities. I don't know why my camera just did that. Anyway, yeah. I didn't know Jakarta had 200 cities. Or Jakarta, wow. Indonesia, I mean, Jakarta's, oh God. If you don't know about the history of, liberalism in Indonesia, I would check out, Vincent Bevins' Jakarta method. That's all about, it's all about the CIA and the quelling of socialism in that country, and how that was transmuted to, by the CIA. That was like the first real big success cases, of the CIA's campaign to like stop the spread of communism. Hopefully one of these days we'll start doing a reading series on that one. It's a long book though. Anyway, let's continue. In the Philippine capital of Manila, where a month-long coronavirus lockdown has been extended by 2 weeks amid a surge of infections, police prevented hundreds of workers from demonstrating at a public plaza. Protest leader Renato Reyes said, but protesters did gather briefly at a busy Manila boulevard, demanding pandemic cash aid, wage subsidies, and COVID-19 vaccines amid rising unemployment and hunger. Workers were largely left to fend for themselves while being locked down, labor leader Joshua Mata said. I think that's how you pronounce it. In Turkey, a few labor leaders were allowed to lay wreaths in Istanbul's Taksim Square, but riot police stopped many others from reaching the plaza. The Istanbul governor's office said 212 people were taken into custody for breaching coronavirus restrictions. Turks are barred from leaving home except to collect essential food and medicine under a lockdown until May 17th that aims to halt a surge of infections. In Germany, where previous May Day demonstrations have often turned violent, police deployed thousands of officers and warned that rallies would be halted if marchers failed to follow coronavirus restrictions. Protests in Berlin called for lower rents, higher wages, and voiced other concerns. Also marching were far-right coronavirus deniers, of course, and opponents of antivirus measures. Of course. Always gonna have some of those fucking weirdos. Later Saturday, one of the bigger leftist rallies in Berlin turned violent with protesters throwing bottles and rocks at police and burning garbage containers and wooden pallets on the streets. News agency DPA reported. Oh, typo, did not capitalize that. An unknown number of officers and protesters were injured and several demonstrators were detained. In Italy, police faced off against a few hundred demonstrators in the northern city of Turin. In Rome, Italy's head of state paid tribute to workers and healthcare workers. Particularly heavy has been the impact from the crisis on female labor and on the access of young people to jobs, Italian President Sergio Mattarella said. Across the Atlantic, in Brazil, thousands of demonstrators backing President Jair Bolsonaro's anti-lockdown stance rallied in Rio de Janeiro's iconic Copacabana beach, one of several such gatherings across the country. Again, far-right people using May Day as an excuse to protest coronavirus restrictions. Bolsonaro's office said he flew in a helicopter over a similar rally in the capital, Brasilia, where some demonstrators carried banners urging him to call in the military. For what? There were also protests in Brasilia and other cities against Bolsonaro's handling of the pandemic. Brazil has seen over 400,000 confirmed COVID-19 deaths, a toll second only to the U.S. I know we looked up the statistic on it. Brazil also has a lot fewer people than the U.S. I think they have like 100 and something million people. Let's look it up. Brazil population 2021. Okay, 213 million. So like 130 million less, 120 million less people than the U.S. And they have almost as many COVID deaths as we do. Oh shit, I closed that. Anyway, doesn't matter. We already read it. Carmina reported from Jakarta, Indonesia, and Leicester from Le Pec, France. AP journalists around the world contributed. So that's more around the world news. May Day news. Here's some local to the U.S. news. May Day protest. 14 arrested in Seattle after peaceful protest gives way to clashes. Police said at least one bystander was pelted by eggs on the street. Oops. That sucks for them, but it's not that bad. Seattle police announced the arrests of at least 14 people after unpermitted demonstrations marking May Day descended into violent confrontations stemming from a group dressed in black that traveled around the city's downtown area towards the Cal Anderson Park, according to a report. Imagine random egg. Q13 Fox reported that the group blocked traffic and put hazards, including flares, important distinction, in the street. The group threw bottles, flares, rocks, paint-filled eggs at police officers, according to police. Those arrested faced charges ranging from assault to property destruction. Oh, boo, the property. Oh, the property. The poor-insured property. Yeah, paint-filled eggs. I mean, they're eggs filled with paint. That's like a thing people do. I mean, you frozen eggs. Oh. Hey, Rye. Hey, Dev. How we doing tonight, friends? Thanks for stopping by. Egg loaf. I'll show you an egg loaf. Sorry, I don't know what that means, but it sounds weird and gross. Um, and I'm sorry I threatened that. That's just it's a loaf of egg. Okay. Hard boiled eggs. Ugh. I find hard boiled eggs gross for the most part. How do I make pain eggs? Oh, paint eggs. That makes more sense. You like you do for like Easter eggs, so you like poke a hole in the bottom, I assume, and a big enough hole to get the yolk to the like white and the yolk to come out, and then you fill it with paint, I assume. Um or like confetti eggs. People make confetti eggs too. Like that's a thing. But yeah, you poke a hole in the thing and then you fucking do the thing. I don't really know. Uh, yeah, yeah. Pinta los huevos de color rosado. Yeah. That sounds like way too much trouble. Might as well just make paint balloons. I mean, yeah, make paint balloons too. Probably easier to do, although they're probably more likely to explode on you. Um, but yeah, that's definitely a way to do things. Oh, I accidentally hit the welcome button on my stream deck. I should delete that key. Anyway, let's continue. Hollow out the eggs and fill them with ink. Yeah, that's what you do. Q13 Fox reported the group blocked traffic and put hazards, blah, blah, blah. Police said at least one bystander was pelted by eggs. Why is that a quote on the street? One individual was arrested for allegedly throwing a rock through an open police car window. What? Wait. Oh, okay, the driver was hit. Okay. I read that as like it was just an empty police car with the window open. Which I was just like, why would you throw a brick through that? But that makes more sense. The driver was hit, the Q13 Fox report said. Police Chief Adrian Diaz announced last week that the department is in a staffing crisis after more than 180 police officers quit last year and another 66 officers left their jobs so far this year, according to the police data. Oh, those poor police officers. Oh, they quit all their jobs. Oh, so we have so few police. Oh, we're the cops. We're so sad because we don't have so many police. Fucking get a grip, you whiny babies. We are at record lows in the city right now. I have about 1,080 deployable officers. This is the lowest I've seen our department, Diaz told King TV. Well, good. Well, fucking good. Okay. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. And if you did so, please consider giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing to my channel if you haven't done so already. I've got my Twitch and Twitter handles up above, and they will also be posted as links in the description of this video, along with some of the other stuff that I do, including ways to support me and my SoundCloud page where I've put some music up there. If you want to participate in these videos, Twitch is where we do that. We record these live and then I cut them together into a more cohesive ASMR video. So consider following us there. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.